Hello, beloveds. Welcome to this space on the internet. I am surprised that I'm sitting here and that I'm finally using my voice in this way again, recording, sharing, storytelling. These are things that have been pretty natural for me in the past, I'd say, 5 years or so. But something really snapped, something really started cracking apart. I would even say crumbling down, in good tower fashion in the year of the snake for me, in terms of the spaces where I use my voice, the things that I talk about, the way I want to align with my global grid worker frequency, and also the way I want to speak to you as my community, as hopefully future members of the spaces, the containers in which both Dragons Love Cacao and Leonine Stream will be gathering in this upcoming, I would say, decade. Now, I joked last year with a sister of mine about how in reviewing the past 10 years, specifically talking about November 2015 till November 2025, which was just a few months ago, but now feels like lifetimes ago. And reviewing how that 10-year period really was what I would call a gap decade. In the West, we're not really that versed on a gap year, which is when you take a year off of continuous studies, right? Perhaps between graduating high school and starting college, starting university. In Europe, for instance, it's actually quite common, quite respectable even, to take a gap year so that you could get some life experience, so that you could really put yourself in places and spaces that are going to help you expand. It really is such a beautiful, ripe time, the late teens, the early 20s, when this gap year is, I would say, instrumental in shaping your vision for your life. Although I will say, it could still be a very preliminary vision, right? Like a first draft of a novel. It's not the finished, it's not the polished draft. It's not the completed novel. It's perhaps just the first eyes, the first dreams, the first passions that you have to set out to follow, that you have to, I would even say, get a little bit dirty in the world and play, right? Play on the earth grid, play on the back of this beautiful dragon planet that we get to live on, which I call Gaia Pachamama. Sometimes I just call her Gaia these days. Sometimes I just call her my Ish Mama, right? My Jaguar Ma. And I'm glad the Jaguar is interrupting here, because I am recording this transmission on the final Trecena, the final 13-day cycle in Maya time, before the next solar year begins for Maya time. So I'm recording on Hun, day 1, tone 1 of Ish, the Jaguar, the mother, the planet, the feminine, the body, the material. And if you know anything about my work lately, you will know that Serpent Year was a tower moment in a lot of ways for me, because old stories, old timelines of being only a prophet or only an oracle or primarily a grid worker or whatever other title, right? Whatever other thing I was running with. I really had to sit with, I really got invited by the Jaguar, by Lady Ish herself. And it's no coincidence that Ish Cacao has the frequency of Jaguar in her name. Ish is the Jaguar, is the Nawal, is the archetype that guided my rebirth in the year of the snake. The Jaguar guided my homecoming to my body, to my temple, to my human incarnation, to my human experience as Ariana. Right? So before I had all these various names, and some of them still ring true. Silver River, obviously. I think I had Silver River of Alchemy. I had Silver River of Grace. I had Queen Prophecies. I had so many different versions of me in the gap decade, the last 10 years. And that's not even all of them. That's just a few of them. And Ish graduated me back to Ariana, my name, my birth name. And she also asked me to make a space in my heart for an incoming stream, which she told me was called the Leonine Stream. And I received Leonine Stream in March of last year. So we're almost coming up to the year mark of me deleting my previous podcast, Queen Prophecies, and claiming this space in my heart for the big cats, claiming this space in my heart, setting it aside for the journey with jaguars, for the journey with lions, lionesses, bobcats, pumas, cougars, tigresses, mountain snow leopards, and every other big cat that I haven't mentioned. There's a lot more, actually, that I will be speaking about in due time in my private spaces, my private sessions, and soon on the Leonine Stream podcast that will be, let's just say it will be released this year, but I'm not going to lock in a date just yet because I want to make sure that I honor the close of Serpent Year, which we are, I'd say, by now we're 12 days away. We are 12 days away from saying gracias, thank you, snake, thank you, serpent, thank you, underworld, for everything that you have given me, for everything that you have taught and retaught me and untaught me, right? Unlearned. The things I have unlearned because you untaught me. It's just a play. It's just a play on sound and on frequency. And even is like underworld, right? Underneath. There is something to that sound. So you know by now, most likely, that I receive tones and sounds and then I develop them and work with them over periods of time, and I share them as activations, as I would even say starting points to go on a journey with your own sound codes. And so unexpectedly, I'm going to offer you the sound code right now on one ish of un. And I'm gonna just flow with it. The word associated with this sound right now, or the collective that's coming in, is actually the Huns. The Huns. And I believe the Huns is another word or another way of talking about the empire of Genghis Khan. I'll have to double check this, but this is how it's coming in, and I'm just gonna trust it. So the Huns, something about the Asian grid specifically, the Asian continent, and the sound code un. Now you may want to get yourself a cup of cacao, because I'm going to take you on a journey, not necessarily with these frequencies, but I am going to story tell about what I feel the full moon that just passed, not even 7 days ago, the full moon on January 31st to February 1st, 2026. And I'm going to tack on an extra day there with the 2-2 portal, which just so happens to be a very, very sacred, celebratory, it's a festival worldwide. It's often associated with the divine feminine. It's associated with Bridget in Celtic tradition. It's associated with water goddesses in Africa and the Caribbean. And it's associated in Europe and Mexico and other places that have this this tie to like Spain and France and certain parts of Europe where Mother Mary carries really strong pull. And they call it the Feast of the Candle, Candelaria, the Candle Virgin Mary. Or you could even say Virgen de la Candelaria. So without getting too much into the specifics of why 2-2 specifically was the bookend that started on January 31st, I'm going to just give you some of the specs. True Sky astrology is more resonant for me. So for me, this was a full moon in the sign of Cancer. Cancer being the astrological sign that is associated with Mother Waters, Matriz, the womb, birthing, also motherhood, also matriarchy. Also marriage, I'm hearing. So I'm going to just throw that in there. It's a lot of ma frequencies, ma, okay? And the other alignment was the EE-MOSH Trecena in Maya time, which is the calendar, the living calendar that I work with, the living calendar that I have intentionally been bringing to the forefront of my life since late 2021. So we're talking about the water cycle. We're talking about the sacral chakra, EE-MOSH, the water lily, EE-MOSH, the sacred lotus, the enlightenment that happens in the journey from mud to just above the water, just above the lagoon, just above, the lily pad or the pond. And the lotus is also a flower that is heavily associated with and cultivated to this day in Asia. I have here in my office, I have Vietnamese golden lotus, dried and ready for teas and cacao, fusion ceremonies, and also just my own sacred time working with the golden lotus energy. I also have blue lotus here, which the majority of blue lotus is cultivated again in the Asian continent in India right now. Although it's not the only place it's cultivated, it's one of the main places. And if not, it's cultivated in China. So there is something happening with the waters of China, with the waters of Asia, with the Indian Ocean, with the waters surrounding all of the islands that we know as, the country of Japan, the country of Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, these locations. If I'm missing any specific country by name, but you're feeling an intuitive hit as I'm speaking, please grab your journal alongside, you tuning in and start writing down your own intuitive hits, because that is the whole point of the work that I do. I help women primarily and grid workers, so beyond gender, grid workers that need to be able to move on this planet freely, that are choosing consciously, that are choosing actively to move on the planet so that codes can be exchanged, downloaded and uploaded, interchanged, and even married, like in union, married, like fluids mixing, like babies being made, right? I'm talking about Cancer. If you know what the symbol of Cancer looks like, it looks like lovemaking, right? There is no mistake. When I talk about mother energy, how could you not talk about mother without talking about love and union and baby making? Because it's all connected. It's all connected. The womb is not only a place to birth a child. It's also a place to receive the frequencies of a beloved, right? It's a place to unite with another and receive his seed. And then in the womb, if you have the intention to birth children, then that seed joins the egg and becomes viable, becomes vital, creates life, creates the next generation. And it's so interesting because I wasn't going to talk about any of these things, but I'm looking at my computer as I'm recording, and there's an image of these cacao seeds on my backdrop. These cacao seeds that I talked about in part 1 of this series on Substack. The 25 seeds from Panama. The 25 cacao seeds that are now, 10 seeds have been accounted for on 2 continents so far. American continent and the European continent. They've already landed. They've landed in the European customs, and they're about to arrive to their destination. And so if you haven't read that article, please go back in Substack and look at the post right before this audio transmission, because it's going to give you a little more context to the work that I'm doing and to how you might be weaving with this work as well. Mother energy also can't be spoken of without speaking about weaving, because mother is connected to matriz. Matriz means womb, but it also means matrix. And if you see some of these words, even in sound, have the frequency that literally creates everything. Matriarchy, matriarchal, mother, mater, matter, the material, the physical. Do you see the connection? So while your first sound code was Hun, I'm now offering mat, mat, and mater, and matri, matrix, matrice. Go with it. Trust yourself. Write down the ones that are pinging you. Write down the ones that feel relevant. Like, I want to go in a ceremony with that. I want to journal with the word matrice because I never knew it meant womb. Or maybe you never knew, I don't know, that the Cancer energy was super connected to the spider. Because I'm also looking at the image of the spider totem next to my cacao seeds, next to a snake. This is my life. My life is symbols, it's archetypes, it's totems, it's the animal realms, it's the plant realms, it's human and divine, it's dragon and leonine. And welcome. Thank you for being here. If you made it this far, keep listening, because I'm going to get into a little bit more about the distorted matriarch, I would say, tower moment that happened on the full moon in Cancer. Okay, these are some notes I wrote down while sitting in the sun the other day about the matriarch. First of all, if you have a super cozy family, I'm not saying to deny that you were born into a beautiful lineage with beautiful matriarchs. But I am not going to pretend that that was the case for me. I'm here to speak about my personal experience so that those that need to have that reflection can also honor the way that they came in. And I came in as the first matriarch in my lineage that isn't going to live out the distorted matriarchal codex. I had this blow up moment last week where I literally had to cuss out my grandmother. Now, I've only shared this with my mother and a close friend of mine because it is such a wild thing to even think about, that a practically 90-year-old woman cannot respect boundaries, has chosen to live a life that is completely in the inverse energy of a matriarch. Inverted, in the inverted frequency of a matriarch. Therefore, the distorted matriarch. I had to stand up to her. I had to set my boundary. I had to call on assistance. And then I had to follow through with my mom and do the physical act that was the nail in the coffin to this moment of standing up to this woman. And we put a lock on our property so that she couldn't come into our property anymore. And I spent the next couple of days in deep reverence and in deep grief to the blood running in my body, to the feminine weavers, to the feminine ancestors that were crying with me, and they were also celebrating me and my mother for putting that boundary, but really for me for choosing to be the frequency of truth for this lineage. The one that stands up to somebody because no is no. Because my boundaries get to be honored. Because my boundaries, our home, gets to be sacred. And oftentimes, I've felt shame in the past about these truths in my life. The fact that I didn't get raised cozy. The fact that even to this day, I will not attend this woman's funeral. The fact that the way I see my future, it's starting with me. It's starting with me as the matriarch. But I'm here to tell you that Serpent Year took all of my shame. That Serpent Year took all of my, when I was debating whether or not to open this door to share this much. And the full moon in Cancer said, finally, you did it. Finally, it is done. Finally, these boundaries, your boundaries, are honored, are sacred, are witnessed by all of the benevolent forces in your blood and all of the benevolent feminine ancestors that are here cheering you on. And I wrote down, being alive simply does not make a matriarch. And there's some of you out there that believe because somebody is related to you and somebody is older to you that they are a matriarch to you. And I'm here to tell you, please sit with what I am sharing and be honest with yourself. Be blunt, be truthful, feel it. Ask yourself, are you the matriarch? Because that other person isn't worthy of the title, isn't choosing to be the matriarch. They're choosing to be the inverted. They're choosing to be the distorted matriarch, the distorted feminine, the distorted mother, the distorted grandmother. Are you the matriarch of your lineage? Does it begin with you? Because this is my truth. I am the beginning of the matriarchy for my lineage. I wrote down, a real matriarch doesn't control, she guides. She mirrors truth through the waterways. She drips honey, miel, not venom, from her lips, her mouth, her voice. She's kind and she's true and worthy of being looked up to because she desires for the whole family to thrive, not because she simply is alive and exists. That's not enough. And so that was the nail in the coffin. And I had reflections in the world that literally rippled and rippled and rippled after that moment, after that definitive decision and moment of truth in my life, just before that beautiful full moon portal and within the Trecena of IMOSH, which is my way of experiencing time, the living calendar of the Maya. And so EE-MOSH is the sign of all of our relationships. It's the sign, the Nawal, the archetype of our sacral. It's connected to our money. It's connected to our love, our union. And it's also, of course, connected to the waters of the planet, the waters of our home, the waters of our country, our town, our city. And I have said this before, that Kali-fornia, the land of my birth, has been sucked dry. She has been in multiple states of drought and abuse and siphoning. And we did some beautiful grid work. Me and a group of women across the world did some beautiful grid work with Kali-fornia in December. And it started with removing the fog from above Los Angeles and Orange County. A fog that was really like, it was infecting the mind. It was infecting, you know, the way we feel about ourselves, our confidence, our ability to go out in the world and do the things that we need to do. It was really keeping people very veiled. And we worked diligently and powerfully. And again, we saw results. We saw rain arrive early. We saw the reservoirs around North California, Central California, that were beyond the normal levels by December. So basically, they were saying some of them would be considered full sometime in spring, but they were pretty much almost full in December. So we saw the outward reflection of the inner work. The inner work was getting to know our waters. The inner work was me working with my ancestry, me retracing parts of my ancestry, getting more information about how my ancestors and where exactly they came from before coming to California. So I diligently was working on these pieces in December, in November. I want to say even in the summertime, on both sides of my lineage, on my father's side, on my mother's side. And all of it culminated. It really came to this like I'm getting a gushing geyser like Yosemite or Yellowstone, where literally the gaseous, right? The gaseous energy just has nowhere else to go but up and out of the earth. And if you've ever seen a geyser, and actually I'm getting Iceland too, because I know I visited a geyser that goes off every like 10 minutes in Iceland. And it's very famous. That geyser energy is what's coming up as proof that California is changing. And she's actually becoming really deeply allied with other parts of the grid that maybe you wouldn't think California needs to, work with deeply, but it's happening. And one of the places is Iceland. Another place, of course, is a little bit more, I guess it makes sense. It's Mexico, because Mexico is right next door. And they have a pretty deep history, pretty deep overlapping historical connection. California is also becoming allies with an island in the Indian Ocean, which I mentioned already, Mauritius. And you already know this probably from a lot of my shares. California and Egypt are very, very deeply connected, intimately so. Last year, with my gridwork journey to the Caribbean, you might have seen, or you might be tuning in from the island of Curaçao, and California got a beautiful assist from the frequencies of the Heart Island, Curaçao, Curacauta. And my beautiful sister, my beautiful dragon sister on Isla Curacauta, was instrumental in me collecting and bringing, and I want to cry. linking more of that inner earth water from Curacauta, fresh water, to the Pacific Ocean in Santa Monica, California. That's where I made the offering. Although I also offered a few drops initially with the first cacao seed from Panama into the wetland of Long Beach. It's called Colorado Lagoon. So I want to just take a moment, and I want to honor that California has been upgraded, that California has become this master weaver herself. The way she's linking people up, the way she's linked me to people that are part of her story of growth and expansion, of shedding in the year of serpent to now becoming literally this lotus that comes up from the mud and grows out of the water. This beautiful flower that's, again, connected to, we know, places like Egypt, Guatemala as the water lily, EE-MOSH, and so many other places that I've already mentioned that the lotus grows, or that you know that the lotus grows. And Maui, this is the last place I'm going to mention. Maui having also an incredible linking up and connection with California. They share Pacific waters. Although Maui is in the Hawaiian Islands and quite a ways away from California, they really do share. Like, I'm hearing like sister islands. They share a common frequency and a common goal for Gaia, for the planet. And so it's no mistake that I'm sharing all of these water pieces because I'm talking about the full moon in the water sign of Cancer. I'm talking about the Ma and the Mat, the matriarch energy. And I'm talking about the EE-MOSH Trecena that just completed. And now I'm going to shift us over into the Ish Trecena, which is the Jaguar, the physical, the material. So we go from the watery, the flowy, to the grounded. 4 paws on the ground like a big cat, like a jaguar. Like a royal cat. Reina Jaguar is how it came through last year. Jaguar Queen energy. And for the Maya, Jaguar is associated with the cycle of magic, earth magic, as well as the cycle of royal remembrance, but in your human form too. Because Jaguar has always been this energy that humans shapeshift into. But as we know, shape-shifting, it goes both ways. You become the jaguar and then you return to human form. You don't stay a jaguar for the most part. I know I don't stay the jaguar because the jaguar provides me, and the lioness as well, when I shapeshift into the lioness, they provide me with what I need, right? It's like a dimensional shift. It's like a shift in perspective, but it's not in the mind. It's in the body. It's felt. You can feel when you shift from human Ariana, and you yourself can feel when you shift from your human name and frequency to like famous people when they have, their stage name, or they have their performance costume, their personality. But you're not putting on a costume when you shift into Jaguar. you're embodying this being that comes with an entire Akashic library of experience from even beyond Earth, from even beyond this planet. And I'm glad I got here because I have the planets. I have these cards here on the desk in front of me that I was really feeling called to choose I'm hearing two cards, 1 to 2 cards that is gonna just inform you what Ish is actually desiring to activate for you. And it's another planet. It's a planet that is connected to your big cat energy, that is connected to your shape-shifting energies and abilities and future, where you start to get to know this frequency more and more, which is what the Leonine stream is, and which is part of the work that I'm going to be doing later on in the year, guiding people to travel to the other side. This is what shamanic work is you travel to the other side, you are embodied in that frequency, and then you use everything that you retrieve, that you receive, you use it here as your human form. So take a couple of breaths here and just really breathe deeply and feel into your Leonine. And let's see which planets. So it's every planet plus the sun, obviously minus Earth because we're already on Earth. So we have Mars, and we're gonna pick one more card. Uranus. I was talking a lot about Uranus this morning with a friend. So I know Mars and Venus are about to come together in the sky, and I know that Uranus just went direct, forward movement. And Uranus is the planet that is strongly linked to cacao, as well as Venus, but it's more of the disruptor. It's more of the revolutionary energy. It's like we're gonna fuck shit up a bit. It's a little bit of that. I've been talking a lot about the French Revolution energy as well. I'm on this whole train with my connections to France and also America's connections to France, the United States, and France having their revolutions literally back to back. So Uranus is going to provide some of these revolutionary frequencies to your earthly experience, your human experience. And then Mars, let's feel into it. And I'm actually going to pick an oracle card for each to go along. So for Uranus, we have the dice, which says change. This card also, to me, it always reminds me of Asia because there's big dice on the image, and some of them remind me of like these games that they used to play in like, I don't know, imperial times, imperial China or something. So your story could involve both the Asian thread, the Asian continent, grid work, and also your big cat could be connected to Asia. And that energy of change and revolution and fucking shit up. So have fun with that. And then for Mars, I don't really have any feels from this yet, so I'm going to get the oracle card to kind of go off of that. Mars Attacks. That was like a movie when I was a kid. And it was pretty weird time when, you know, there were a lot of movies about aliens, but the movies were all very, like, primitive, like Coneheads and Mars Attacks, and just like a really strange way of, I guess, confusing us about our connections, right, to the stars and to our own selves in these other parts of the galaxy and the universe. So the card I got is yin yang, dynamic. So we literally have the symbol of harmony with Mars. So it makes sense because I just mentioned that Mars and Venus are going to meet together in the sky. So this is the energy of both sides of you, right? Your masculine side, your feminine side meeting in harmony. Your masculine mission and your feminine mission eventually fusing and becoming union itself within you. Eventually, the idea isn't to forever be in this like capped sense of duality on planet Earth. She's outgrowing that 100 million%. This isn't always going to be a realm of duality or polarity, you could say, even. So I'm hearing batteries. You know how a battery has to have like a positive and a negative charge for it to even function? And then magnets also, positive and negative charge, right? So this has to do more with union and baby making too. Whereas, so some of you need the message of your Leonine frequencies actually gonna bring in counterpart beloved, because you do the inner union first, the inner marriage, and therefore the outer divine union, Hiros Gamos, the outer marriage. And then for the other side that don't resonate with this, you're the we're gonna rock out and fuck shit up and revolutionize. And Uranus in this image is this really bright blue, like sky blue, but like really, really almost icy blue. And there is like a Fibonacci sequence, which is also called the golden mean. So it's this perfect geometry. And there's something about perfect geometry, perfect cycles of time. It's very connected to Maya time also, because this is literally the sequence that is also connected to nature, that's connected to birth, that's connected to everything. And so you are on the track of bringing in new time, changes in the way we experience time, changes in the way that we experience love as well, and also how we experience luck. So that's a little bit of like the game of, you know, dice, you know, like lucky dice, lucky 7. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling for that. Okay, now if you were able to read the previous article that I shared, you would have seen right in the first paragraph that I mention union and I mention balance. And I'm talking specifically about the two aspects of me that needed to come into union: my birth land of California and my closest ancestral lands of Mexico. And how this union that was divinely timed for Year of Serpent, how this union then led to working deeper with the California grid all the way down to Baja California, which is actually in Mexico, on the Mexico side, but it's one peninsula, it's one body. If you look at California on a map, you will see that even though the US border ends at Tijuana, the landmass continues. And this is something I mentioned last year when the fires were happening in California. I mentioned that California was going to reclaim her whole body, that her spine, that her mountain range, that her Kundalini journey or arc that was really and truly kicked into another level when the fires happened here in LA last year, in southern Cali, that it was setting the stage for her becoming one body again, and for the border between the United States and Mexico dissolving in our lifetime. Now, this is something that I know is true. This is gnosis for me. If you're not there yet, I respect where you are. But I'm inviting you with this Uranus revolutionary spirit. I'm inviting you to start leaning into these spaces more and to start listening to your own oracular and intuitive self or selves, because there are so many things that a few years ago I literally thought I was having different stages of, like that movie It's a Beautiful Mind, where not It's a Beautiful Mind A Beautiful Mind, like It's a Wonderful Life and A Beautiful Mind, and I was mixing them up. So A Beautiful Mind, where he basically has like schizophrenia, but he's this genius. It's that type of frequency, but with all of these timelines and all of these pieces that I could see of the future, but that I didn't really know how to organize. I didn't really know how to even land all of these visions and ideas and prophecies and such. And so it was all just kind of like a little bit much, And then with the work with cacao, the work with my ancestors, the work with the land, even just the land right here in my mom's home that I've become really in tune with, step by step, what started happening was that a lot of these visions could finally land, could finally take form, could become material. And that material is Ish. That material is Jaguar. And for some of us that have been on various journeys with dragon energy, with Kundalini, life force, right? Activations, awakenings, often it can be like the wild west of, New Age, and the wild west of New Earth, and all that is out there, right? All that is out there, like being sold to us. And at the end of the day, all we really need is to get in tune with our own resonant frequencies, memories, vibrations, sounds, and locations. And so this is what Dragon's Love Cacao is actually handing me over to focus on a different stream right now, and that stream is women. That is women that are ready to go on the Leonine stream journey of rediscovering their connections through their big cat and anchoring all of that here in the literal physical grids of the planet. In your small town, in your big city, in your Bali home, in your Mexico hut, in wherever it is you are tuning in from, or wherever you envision yourself being in a few years' time. For some of you, it's literally a few years away. For some of you, it's a bit longer. For some of you, it's like you could taste it. It's so close. I'm inviting you into the Leonine stream. And we're beginning with a beautiful solar eclipse cacao ceremony in just under 2 weeks. So it's going to be on the 17th of February, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be gathering on Zoom. We're going to be receiving, you are going to be receiving from all of the work that was already completed by the moment of the full moon. And I'm going to continue talking about what that was in the next series of, again, alternating written and audio transmissions. So watch this space, follow this Substack, because you're going to be receiving pieces. And then by the time the eclipse, which is also our graduation from Snake Year, and we're entering beautiful energy of Fire Horse. It is the spring festival in the Chinese calendar. We are literally entering spring. We are literally entering a different element finally. Fire element on a solar eclipse. And these are part of this is why all the Asian energy was coming in too, because I was always going to invite you into the Chinese marker, right, of this new cycle, but through the lens of my ancestry, my deepest connections. So from the Mexican grid point of Teotihuacan, Pyramid of the Sun, solar eclipse cacao ceremony. All information can be found on my website, on the link under this post. You could just go to www.dragonslovecacao.com/store and you'll see it right there. You can also go on my Instagram and pop in my stories, and I'm going to be sharing the link easy peasy, or it's in my bio right on Instagram. So come closer, you guys. Let's go deep this year. Dragons Love Cacao is my business, but it's kind of giving a platform for Leonine Stream to step into the limelight right now, because this is what my work is asking of me. As I became the Jaguar this past year, now I get to pass on the knowledge. Now I get to pass on, quite literally, right, the transmissions and the activations that made that possible. The stories, the locations, and the guides that made that possible, which are the 20 Nawales of the Maya calendar, as well as all of my ancestors and connections in the Americas. And it spans North America, Central America, and South America. Those are my bloodlines. So without saying any more, you're welcome. Come in, come closer. Let's do this together. Let's gather. Ish Cacao's ready to go. And Ish, the Jaguar, will be holding us on that eclipse, because it is the final day of her cycle. on February 17th, solar eclipse and festival New Year in Chinese astrology. So excited, sending you so much love. Definitely stretch it out, ground a little bit, dance a little bit, play a little bit after listening to this, and let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel, what was moving and shaking for you, and excited for this new phase of our lives, which, by the way, let's go back to the gap year. The gap year and the gap decade. I have officially entered, back into, you could say, like, school, right? But it's the school of life. It's the school of experience. I had fun. I moved all over the world in that gap decade, in that 10-year cycle. I got activated the heavens from this planet because that was always my intention. That was always my intention before even incarnating. And my travel will not stop. It's slowing down for this year, but it will not stop. I have announcements about loads of stuff for you on that solar eclipse cacao ceremony. So come in and we'll talk about it then. Lots of love.